Good morning. With honor and praise to God, I extend greetings to Pastor Cross and the Aldersgate United Methodist Church family. I extend thanks to Dr. Melinda Todd, who invited me to speak briefly to connect climate change with health, equity, and climate change with our faith. I'm Dr. Jerry Cannon Smith with the Mississippi Health Professionals for Climate and Health Equity. There are three messages that we usually share. One, climate change is evolving and evolving rapidly. That's a stewardship issue. Two, climate change is health, and it does so disproportionately. That's an equity issue. And three, climate solutions are health solutions. That's an issue for action. So how did we get here? The natural greenhouse effect was designed to protect the Earth's surface from too much radiation from the sun and to keep it at a relatively standard temp. However, human activities have enhanced this effect and caused less heat to escape into the atmosphere than was designed. And that leads to global warming or an increase in the temperature of the Earth's surface and oceans, and a change in climate over the long term. This temperature has been steadily increasing over the 4 to 5 decades and is now approximately 1.35 degrees centigrade higher than it was in pre-industrial times. There are multiple sources of greenhouse gas emissions, from the thawing of the permafrost to transportation to industrial processes. In 2022, 28% of the emissions were from transportation, 23% were from industry, 25% was from the creation of electric power, 10% from agriculture, and 13% from residential and commercial use. Also note that 8.5% of the emissions in combined categories comes from healthcare facilities in the United States. This global warming and subsequent climate change leads to weather extremes like increasing seasonal precipitation and more severe droughts with more intense wildfires. It warms the oceans, increasing the frequency and intensity of hurricanes, as in Helene pictured here, leading to billions of dollars of economic losses, often in communities who can least afford it. Similarly, increased levels of air pollution, flooding, and sea level rise with saltwater incursion, as in Louisiana, affects already vulnerable populations most severely. Climate change is a global phenomenon which affects almost every one of our concerns, from access to clean food and water, to increasing war and violence, to health disparities related to race, gender, and economic status. Climate change impacts a wide range of health outcomes. This slide illustrates the most significant climate change impacts: rising temps, more extreme weather, rising sea levels, and increasing carbon dioxide levels. Then it demonstrates at least 8 pathways or exposures which connect these pathways to the negative health outcomes that can result from the exposures. For example, air pollution has negative effects on cardiac and respiratory conditions, especially asthma, and at hazardous levels, it's linked to premature births and low birth weight, leukemia, as well as precipitating the onset of dementia by 2 years. Longer, warmer allergy season increases allergies and asthma symptoms and risk of infections. Broader distribution of mosquito breeding areas increases the rates of diseases like West Nile, Lyme, malaria, and dengue. Droughts and flooding produce negative effects on water quality and access, including inadequate and substandard food supplies, which can lead to waterborne infections and decreased food security. Mental health effects: stress, anxiety, depression have been associated with wildfires, as well as severe weather events and their disastrous consequences. Drought-induced migration and increased exposures to environmental hazards are also issues. Extreme heat causes some direct effects like heat exhaustion, stroke, and increases complications for those with chronic medical and mental health conditions and those who are pregnant. Heat indirectly exacerbates other negative climate effects like air pollution, increasing it, changes in vector-borne illnesses, food insecurity, and poor water quality. But the bottom line is that all of these climate-related exposures amplify the effects of historical, structural inequities, and structural racism in vulnerable communities and populations. Disparate levels of heat and poor air quality in redline communities are only two of the many examples. Just a note that there are significant overlapping mental health factors. There are immediate effects from destructive storms, floods, wildfires, and extreme heat, leading to PTSD, anxiety, depression, stress, self-harm, suicidal ideation, along with more gradual effects associated with slowly progressing chronic conditions and nutritional conditions. There are indirect effects, such as decreased self-esteem, nostalgia, economic losses, insecurity of food, housing, and economic, along with interpersonal violence, and in children, academic performances. There are also vicarious effects that we see in frontline workers and first responders. Vulnerable populations include infants, children, student athletes, pregnant and postpartum women, older adults, people with chronic illnesses, both physical and mental, and allergies, people living in poverty, communities of color, marginalized communities, coastal river communities, the unhoused, people living with disabilities, and outdoor and frontline workers. So what do we do? Practically, the most important thing we can do is to understand and help others understand that climate solutions are health solutions. We can speak out and role model energy efficiency and utilizing clean energy. We can support food sustainability, advocate for community adaptive strategies and policy change at all levels. So in summary, climate change is evolving, a stewardship issue. Climate change is health and does so disproportionately, making it an equity issue. Climate solutions are health solutions, making it a call to action. Thank you so much for your attention, and I can be reached at either of the email addresses below. May God bless.